Coming up in the shadow of Nolan Ryan, in the midst of the high offense in the steroid era, Kevin Brown was the great underappreciated pitcher of the era, becoming a perennial Cy Young candidate while having all-time seasons for different teams. But in the end, it wasn't enough for the Hall of Fame for a certain reason. So let's look at Kevin Brown's underappreciated career.
Totally sports-esque. Major League.
After being named an All-American at Georgia Tech, Kevin Brown was selected 4th overall in the 1986 draft by the Texas Rangers. And despite struggling some in the start of his minor league career, he would make his debut the same year he was drafted, making 1 start, pitching 5 innings and giving up 3, and picking up his first career win. Despite already getting his first call-up, he spent 1987 in the minors, and it did not go so well. Over all 3 levels, he went 1-11 with a 6.49 ERA over 102.2 innings. Obviously worrying to those in the Rangers organization that their first pick may not be all that he was cracked up to be. But he was still just starting, and he would spend almost all of 1988 in single-A Tulsa, making clear improvements, lowering his walks, and raising his strikeout numbers as he had a 3.51 ERA over 174.1 innings. And he was back to the majors by the end of the year, and in his first start back, he would throw a complete game with 6 strikeouts and 1 run against the future AL champion Oakland Athletics. And though his final 3 starts were near as good, those worries started to go away as he would never go back down. In his full rookie season of 1989, he would make 28 starts, going 191 innings with a 3.35 ERA and 104 strikeouts, ending the year as the number 2 starter behind Nolan Ryan, who was 18 years older, finishing 6th in Rookie of the Year voting, actually having a higher BWAR than everyone who received votes. And over the next 2 years, he would continue to be one of the Rangers' top starters, posting a 4.03 ERA over 390.2 innings combined with a 3.7 BWAR. But 1992 was when he became a top-of-the-line starter. After posting a 3.01 ERA over 146.2 innings with 98 strikeouts, he would be an all-star for the first time. And by the end of the season, he would make 35 starts, with his 265.2 innings being the most in the league. And despite giving up the most hits in the league at 262, he had a 3.32 ERA with the most wins in the league, the first Ranger to record 20 wins since Fergie Jenkins in 1974. He would pitch 1.5 more seasons with the Rangers, posting a 4.11 ERA over 403 innings in those 1.5 seasons with a 5.6 WAR. And the reason it was just 1.5 is because of the 1994 strike. A lot of the discussion around the 94 strike is the teams who were robbed of a chance. But for someone like Kevin Brown, losing 15 to 20 starts at the start of their prime could change a Hall of Fame case. He was a free agent after the strike-shortened season. In the short 1995, he would pitch with the Orioles, almost pitching the same number of games and innings as 94, only he was better here, with a 3.6 ERA over 172.1 innings with a 4.3 BWAR, giving up 63 less hits than his league-leading 218 the previous season. And he was a free agent again after the season, and he would end up signing a 3-year, $12.9 million contract with the Florida Marlins. The Marlins, in just their 3rd year of existence, were trending in the right direction, and Brown was massive in making them contenders as his real prime would begin. After posting a 1.89 ERA with 79 strikeouts over 119 innings and 17 starts, Brown would make the All-Star team for the 2nd time. And over the year, he would make 32 starts, 5 of those complete games, with 3 of those shutouts, which was the highest in the league, as he went 233 innings with a 1.89 ERA and a 7.9 BWAR, both of which were the best in the league. He also had the best ERA+, WHIP, and the lowest home runs given up per nine. Not giving up those home runs a big part of his success, as despite giving up the most hits in the league a few times over the previous years, and hitting the most batters at 16 that year, he still had the best ERA. And that would result in him finishing 2nd in Cy Young voting behind John Smoltz. It's really a year where you couldn't go wrong either way, Brown having the best ERA by a good margin, but Smoltz threw 20 more innings and struck out 127 more batters. And with Smoltz on the best team in the National League, and also winning the most games, which was big in the time, it's not surprising that he won, and a result that could have gone either way. But the Marlins had their best of their 4 seasons at that point, finishing at 80 and 82. And with Brown as their ace, and a front office that would decide to go for it, they were suddenly contenders going into 97. Brown got off to a good start along with the Marlins, but he had 2 rough starts on May 31st and June 5th, giving up 13 earned runs and 21 hits over those 12 innings. But everything changed when he took the mound in San Francisco his next start. He was absolutely cruising, setting the first 21 down in order while striking out 5, with 14 of the other 16 outs being ground balls. Brown having an incredible sinker that was working very well that night. And the 8th inning began with Barry Bonds hitting a fly ball, and Brown recording a 6th strikeout on Jeff Kent. And with 2 strikes on Marvin Bernard, he would unfortunately end up hitting him, the most frustrating of the 14 batters he would hit that year, which again was the most in the league. But he regrouped, and he got Mark Lewis to ground out, and there were no hits for the Giants after 8. And the 9th inning started with what had been seen all game. Bill Mueller and Stan Javier would ground out, with Darrell Hamilton being the only batter left. And after fouling off a pitch, on his 98th pitch, Brown would strike him out as he would throw a no-hitter against the Giants. That hit by pitch more frustrating, as without it, he would have thrown a perfect game. But nonetheless, he threw the second no-hitter in Marlins history. He would then make his third All-Star game the next month, and over the season, he wasn't quite as good as the previous year, but still had his second best to that point, posting a 2.69 ERA over 237.1 innings with a B-WAR of 7, while striking out 200 for the first time in his career. And he was the ace that helped the Marlins win 92 games, and that would be enough for the wild card. And the team he no-hit in the Giants would be the team they played in the NLDS. And of course, he was on the mound in Game 1. And him and Kirk Rueter would battle it out over 7 innings, both giving up 1 run, both being home runs to lead off the 7th from Bill Mueller and Charles Johnson, and they were both done after that. And it was a preview of things to come, with Edgar Renteria hitting a walk-off single in the 9th. The Marlins would go on to sweep the Giants, then face the team that had played in every NLCS since 1991 in the Atlanta Braves. And in Game 1, Brown would go up against Greg Maddux, and he would post a quality start going 6, giving up 3 with 3 strikeouts. And that was enough for the win, as the Marlins jumped on Maddux early, and they never lost the lead. And thanks to a massive Game 5 strike zone that Livian Hernandez took advantage of, the Marlins had a 3-2 advantage going to Game 6, with Brown back on the mound. The reason he didn't pitch until Game 6 being that he was battling the flu. That was still there when he took the mound. And considering that, this is an all-time performance, as the Marlins gave him 4 runs to start off Tom Glavine, and despite giving up 11 hits, Brown limited the damage to 4 runs, while striking out 8 and throwing 140 pitches, going all 9 innings to give the Marlins a National League pennant, reminiscent of another great 90s baseball player, Michael Jordan. The Marlins would face the Cleveland Indians in the World Series, and after taking Game 1, they were in great shape with Brown on the mound against the fierce Indians lineup. But it did not go so well. He gave up 10 hits and 6 runs over 6 innings, and the Marlins didn't give him the same run support as he would take his first playoff loss. Things were aligning again, as the Marlins had a chance to clinch the World Series in Game 6 with Brown back on the mound. But again, he wasn't real great, going just 5, walking 3, and giving up 4 runs, while the Marlins again scored just 1 run, as Brown would lose both of his World Series starts. But the next night, the Marlins made a 9th inning comeback, then in extra innings, Edgar Renteria would hit a walk-off single to give the Marlins a World Series title in just their 5th year as a franchise. Truly an all-around team that was able to overcome 2 losses from their ace to beat a very good Cleveland team. And what happened to that all-around World Series team? The Marlins front office took advantage and decided to go on a fire sale. The likes of Moises Alou, Rob Nen, Jeff Conine, and many more were gone. And one of the others was Kevin Brown, who would be traded to the Padres for Derek Lee and prospects. While Lee would be a great player and help the Marlins win their next title, Brown will make them regret not having him for another year. Brown will make his 3rd straight and 4th All-Star team overall with 3 different teams, and as the Padres were competing for a playoff spot, Brown was massive down the stretch, posting a 1.71 ERA in August and September over 84.1 innings, while striking out 88, as the Padres would win the NL West with 98 wins. And Brown put up his best season, posting a 2.38 ERA over his league-best 35 starts, while having the best WAR, FIP, and the lowest home runs per 9 again, with his 257 strikeouts a career high. And as I talked about in a recent video, his 9.6 FWAR was the best in Padres history, and it would result in just a 3rd place finish in Cy Young voting. While in 96 small tire wheel case, I feel that Brown was better than Tom Glavine here, along with his teammate Trevor Hoffman, who may have taken votes from each other. Brown threw 27 more innings with a better ERA, WAR, WHIP, and 100 more strikeouts. Wins being a huge stat here, but it's not a huge difference. And the Padres were a 1st place team that year, a decision that kind of changed his future Hall of Fame case. Regardless, the Padres were in the playoffs, and Brown showed why he should have won the Cy Young in Game 1 against the Astros. Going against Randy Johnson during his very short time with the Astros, over 8 innings, Brown did not give up a run, gave up 2 hits, and he would strike out 16. That is the 2nd most in MLB playoff history, behind only Bob Gibson's 17 in the 1968 World Series, as he would pick up the win. And he pitched just 4 days later in Game 3, and again he was great, going 6.2, giving up 1 run despite 5 walks and 5 strikeouts, as the Padres again won 2-1, and they would then win the series the next night. And for the 2nd straight year, Brown was facing the Braves who were in the NLCS again, and poised to face the other 100-win team in the AL in the New York Yankees. But it was not meant to be. After the Padres won Game 1 in 10 innings, Brown went up against the Cy Young winner in Game 2, and he again showed why he should have won by pitching a complete game shutout with 11 strikeouts, as the Padres took both games on the road. And in a gutsy decision, Kevin Brown was brought in the 7th of Game 5 with a 2-run lead and a chance to go to the World Series. He would get out of the 7th, But the 8th did not go well, ending with him giving up a 3-run go-ahead homer to Michael Tucker as he picked up the loss as a result. But the Padres won Game 6, and for the second straight year, Brown was the ace on the NL champions, facing what some consider the best team ever in the 1998 Yankees. His World Series performance was a case of it just not being enough, losing Game 1 after giving up 4 over 6.1, actually having the lead when he left, but the Yankees would blow the game open after the 7th. Then in what was an elimination game Game 4, Brown would go 8 innings, striking out 8, and giving up 3 runs. But Andy Pettitte was better, as he would not give up a run, as the Yankees would end up winning to end the dream season. And if there's ever a time to have your best year, it's before free agency, which Brown did, and became the first $100 million man in baseball by signing a 7-year, $105 million contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers, obviously putting huge pressure on him, and over the first 2 years, he was still great. After finishing 6th in Cy Young voting in '99 with a 6.2 WAR, he had another All-Star season the next year, posting a 2.58 ERA over 230 innings, which was the best in the league, along with having the best whip and K-to-walk ratio, as he again finished 6th in Cy Young voting. While he was still good in 2001, posting a 2.65 ERA over 115.2 innings, he would miss almost 2 months with an injury, and in 2002, he would only pitch 63 innings with a negative WAR and a 4.81 ERA. He, however, bounced back in 2003, making his 6th and final All-Star game, as he would go on to post a 2.39 ERA over 211 innings with 185 strikeouts. And during the offseason, he would be traded to the Yankees as part of a multi-player deal, ending a time in what is referred to as one of the worst contracts given out, which is a real stretch, as Brown was still pretty good, but he was hampered by injuries, with the Dodgers not making the playoffs in this time. But with the 9 figures being attached to him, there was pressure to be extraordinary, with this time also damaging his case in multiple ways, as we'll see. Brown again dealt with injuries throughout 2004, including breaking his hand after punching a wall in frustration, but he was back in the rotation by the end of the year, after posting a 4.09 ERA in 132 innings and winning 10 games. He was the Yankees' number 3 going into postseason, and as he had before, he continued to be an incredible LDS pitcher. In a closeout game against the Twins, he went 6, and though he gave up 8 hits, he gave up just 1 run, and he got the win. Brown pitching 27.2 innings in the LDS in his career, and giving up just 3 runs, while striking out 30, and that led to the infamous ALCS. He was back on the mound in Game 3 in Fenway, and he was not good, lasting just 2 innings, and giving up 3 on 5 hits. But it was a night where he didn't need to be good, as the Yankees reported on the Red Sox, scoring 19 runs on 22 hits as they took a 3-0 lead, with assumptions that the next time Brown pitched would be in his 3rd World Series with a 3rd different team in a different league. But the Red Sox had different plans. After 2 comebacks in Game 4 and 5, the Red Sox forced a Game 7 after Curt Schilling's memorable Game 6 performance. And with the possibility of a nightmare coming true, Brown was the one who took the mound in Game 7 against Derek Lowe. And it was a disaster. David Ortiz hitting a 2-run home run in the first, then in the second after a single and 2 walks, Brown would be taken out of the game, with Javier Vazquez coming in. And he would end up giving up a grand slam to Johnny Damon. 3 of those runs being charged to Brown, as he would end up being the losing pitcher and probably the worst loss in Yankees history, and what is unfortunately most remembered during his time there. He did come back with the Yankees the next year at the age of 40, but after dealing with injuries again, he threw just 73.1 innings with a 6.5 ERA. And very clear, it was his time, and he would retire after the season. Over his 19-year career, Kevin Brown won 211 games, posting a 3.28 ERA over 3,256.1 innings, striking out 2,397 with a 68.2 WAR, making 6 All-Star teams, leading the league in WAR and ERA twice, and winning the '97 World Series. And his first ballot in 2011, he received just 2.1% of the vote. Brown's not one that jumped off the page without tons of typical milestones and no Cy Youngs, but he's one that if you look closer, you realize he deserves more consideration. A lot of it just has to do with the era. Brown's prime was in the midst of an offensive explosion in baseball, brought upon by these things called performance-enhancing drugs, thus making what Pedro Martinez, Randy Johnson, and the Braves staff did even more impressive, and what makes Brown kind of fall under the radar behind those names. During his peak years from '96 to 2000, of starters with at least 1,000 innings, Brown has the best ERA besides Pedro Martinez, while also pitching the most innings in this time, while also being top 3 with Pedro and Randy Johnson in FIP, WHIP, and ERA+. And despite not being much of a strikeout pitcher, he's one of just 5 to strike out at least 1,000 in his time, also having some all-time playoff performances during the time. And past the era, looking at Jaws, amongst retired pitchers down the Hall of Fame, he ranks 4th, the 3 ahead of him being Roger Clemens, Curt Schilling, and Rick Reichel. Clemens and Schilling facing off-field issues, while Reichel had a very similar career as Brown. And of the 7 pitchers who won between 200 to 220 games with an ERA plus between 120 to 135, 4 of those are in the Hall of Fame, with Stan Kowalski, John Smoltz, Don Drysdale, and Hal Newhouser. The 3 not are Curt Schilling, Kevin Brown, and Eddie Cicotte, who was one of the players who threw the 1919 World Series. So just based on that, Brown probably should be in the Hall of Fame. But the real reason he didn't get consideration comes from his inclusion in the Mitchell Report. Allegations are made by Kirk Radonsky that he sold Brown HGH for a few years, starting in 2000 when he was on the Dodgers, and when those injuries started popping up. Radonsky claims Paul LaDuca introduced him, someone who also introduced Eric Gagne and others to him, while the claims are backed up by a receipt sent to Brown from Radonsky dating June of 2004. While many within the Dodgers organization had speculations, with reporters noting the claims made by management, along with his temper tantrums, which included breaking his hand, that could be taken as roid rage. Brown also never met with investigators, which did not really help his case. So Brown goes down as one of the best pitchers of an era dominated by power hitters, but also a part of what the era was defined by. I made a video about Juan Gonzalez, and Brown can be seen as the pitching version of him, both great and coming up at the same time, and teammates for many years on the Rangers. But both are overshadowed by bigger names, with both having good Hall of Fame cases, but accusations made against them have hurt them the most. Brown deserves to be in the Hall of Fame by the numbers, but that won't happen until steroid users are let in the Hall. And like those players, they will have to be voted in by a committee. Kevin Brown had a great career that deserved more accolades, but was overshadowed by bigger names and later accusations. And you can watch my video about Juan Gonzalez to note the similarities between the two.